March 30th, 2017, 9:18 p.m. I don't really get the whole friends thing. At best, I've been able to cobble together small groups of misfits that orbit around me like space junk until I move to the next location. My life thus far hasn't allowed me the luxury of staying in one place for very long. As such, the vast majority of my meaningful interaction is with people I stay in contact with online. There's a special kind of loneliness that comes from knowing that there is someone who gets it, but that they're 1,000 miles away. And that's the thing. I've made that 1,000-mile journey more than once. I've dropped everything to live in the land where I could actually have a friend. It's just that the craziest thing happens. These people are great internet friends, but that doesn't necessarily translate to sitting in their living room at 4 a.m. as I desperately try to push the existential dread out of my mind. In fact, most of the people who encourage some of my more outlandish internet behavior cannot stand me in real life. But that doesn't really matter anymore. You see, it's only a matter of time now. It's only a matter of time until all of you die. For the better part of a decade now, I've mistakenly believed there was a chance I'd survive this oncoming devastation. But I was wrong. Call me crazy. Tell me that I'm suffering from a delusion that's centered around an arbitrary date in the future I never thought I'd live long enough to see. I've heard it all before, but by my count, we have about 7 months left as of the time I'm writing this. Allow me to explain. The doctors tell me I have idiopathic generalized epilepsy. My myoclonic seizures have never been bad enough to warrant the removal of my driver's license, but they happen nonetheless. It's during these brief moments where I lose control of my body that I see another place. It's a place that I've been seeing in brief flashes for most of my life. Over the past decade, I've been seeing it more and more. That's a huge part of the reason I've been doing so much traveling. I keep seeing the end of our world. It's not as crazy as it sounds. Historians will often attribute the strange behavior of the Oracle of Delphi and other supposed seers to having had epilepsy. I'm not limited to our eventual death either. Over the years, I've told many people what our eventual fate would be. Some run with it and excel. Others run from it and wither away. The future I see is not set in stone. It's changed by no other virtue than the fact that I observed it. It changes even further if I tell you about it. I may sound like a crazy person for telling you this, but we're all going to die soon, and the best case scenario here is that I can disrupt the timeline enough that I appear crazy or as if I've been lying the whole time. I don't want the world to end. I don't want the city of New York to be indistinguishable from the city of Aleppo. I don't want to see survivors carting the dead out of urban areas as they try to reclaim what precious resources survived the oncoming storm. When I was younger, I believed the coming apocalypse was religious in nature because those who fired the weapons wore armbands with the letters INRI. Being young and inclined to believe in my religious upbringing, I was comforted by this. However, I've since come to understand that INRI stands for Igne Natura Rentivar Integra. For those of you that were not blessed with ecumenical classes growing up, that translates to, by fire, nature is restored to purity. It isn't some hokey saying either. It will be the words on the lips of our future oppressors. Let me take a break from that for now. We have time. I have 7 months to live, and I'm hopelessly alone. I gave serious thought to making people spend time with me, but I can't bring myself to hurt people who like me, and I have no desire to spend time with people who can't stand me. I know it sounds pathetic, but as I finish out the last few months of my life, I just want to feel something more than this sense of impending doom. Before I head off into oblivion, I want to have at least one moment in my life that isn't tainted by foreknowledge. I just want a few brief moments of contentment before the rest of the world forces itself into my brain and I'm forced to watch the pictures build up in my mind until I can't take anymore and I eventually seize up. That's why I've been heading east for a while now. I don't want to leave someone behind. I don't want to leave someone with the crippling sense of loss I already have. I already know that I won't survive the days ahead of me, and I guess I'm hoping I can connect to someone else who's already doomed. For the last 100 or so miles, I've had a hitchhiker riding with me. She's a sweet girl. She doesn't really talk much, and I can tell she's had it rough on the road. At this point, I think she's just happy to be in the car with someone who isn't getting grabby or listening to country music. Her name is Beth. If she told me she was 18, I'd call her a liar, but she's out here alone nonetheless. She says she's trying to get to her aunt's place a few towns over. I know better. She's as lost as I am. She doesn't know that I can see her future. She doesn't know that I've already seen her past. At this point, all she knows is that I offered her a ride while she was walking down the interstate and that I keep tactical bacon next to a bottle of water in my glove box. In 100 miles of highway, she said maybe 6 words beyond the standard introduction. I'm not about to try and form a connection with a child roughly half my age, and I'm not the type of guy who would be untoward in that sense. As I sit here at this truck stop and type on my tablet, I can't help but wonder why she continues to hover around me. As I write this, she's chowing down on a burger and fries as I sip unsweetened tea. I write in this journal because no one's ever going to believe me. I experienced this shit, and I'm not sure I'd believe someone else if they told me the same version of events from their perspective. With the exception of the one time I'm pretty sure I met a guy like me at Walmart, and I don't think there are many people like me out there. For 3 billion people, the world will end on November 11th, 2017. 95% of the population up to 100 miles inland of the eastern coast of the United States will be consumed in fire. Winds will carry radiation around the world. Missiles will all but decimate the major population centers of China, India, Russia, and most of the Arab nations. Those who survive the initial nuclear exchange will have to deal with the military forces that will seemingly rise from those ashes. I say seemingly because they're already stockpiling supplies and gathering their soldiers. At this very moment, black monks from the Order of Benedict are working under papal conditions to shore up resources for an apocalypse they've known about for almost 1,000 years. Every single Catholic church is an embassy for an invading army that's infiltrated every country that matters since the distant past was known as current events. If you're naive enough to believe this organization serves God, you are sadly mistaken. The Church is and always has been the religious arm of the Holy Roman Empire. Corporations have only recently begun to branch out into the kind of extraterritorial rule that the Catholics perfected centuries ago. Men will betray king and country for the commands of their God every single time. They already know how it all goes down. 3 billion die, and those that remain will quickly fall to the new empire. It sounds crazy. I know exactly how crazy it sounds. Believe me when I say I'd march right into the loony bin and check myself in for life on November 12th if I'm wrong. Until then, I have to make waves. I have to screw with their version of events. I have to try and fight this, because otherwise my foreknowledge is meaningless. March 31st, 2017, 10:02 a.m. I took Beth as far as Evansville, Indiana, before she had me drop her off in front of a crack shack of a house on the northwest side of town. A man old enough to be my father answered the door, and she gave him a kiss on the lips. I don't even want to think about what kind of hell she's going to live in these next few months, but I can tell you now, she's not going to carry that baby to term. As fate would have it, another individual found himself riding in the front seat of my car. He's a 50-year-old veteran with a duffel bag that reeks of piss and whiskey. He isn't the first homeless man to tag along with me, and frankly, I was glad for the company. He says his name is Adam, but then again, he also told me he was a 700-year-old forest spirit locked inside the body of a wounded soldier he found in Bosnia. Adam was more than happy to fall asleep in the front seat as I continued down the interstate. I told him I probably wouldn't be stopping again until Louisville, and all he said was, "Oh, you should come with me. The downtown shelter serves real meat." I'm almost jealous of him. When the dark days come, he'll already be prepared, and he doesn't even know it. As everyone else is brought to his level, he will become an expert amongst novices. His skill at surviving off the very lowest amount of resources will carry him through another 20 years, and in that time, he even finds a wife and something that resembles a family. I told him this, and all he said was, "No shit, brother. I'm just waiting for another year or two, and then I'll have me a village to run." He took off on foot a while ago, and I'm sitting in my car tapping away at the touchscreen on my tablet as I try to get a few more words out. Things are going to get bad soon. Like most things, it all builds up to a breaking point. Some of the more horrific things that humanity has to offer will be making themselves apparent in the next coming months. In 6 weeks, North Korea is going to fire a missile that lands 100 miles east of the coast of the main island. The bright flash of light will be visible from the shore at Hilo. The level of paranoia that grips the world is going to be unrivaled. Allies will become enemies, and the United States will become even more isolationist in its actions than before the Second World War. March 31st, 2017. 11:30 p.m. I drove the last 700 miles alone. I'm in a hotel room for once. I'm running from a deceptively comfortable bed at the Holiday Inn just off the Interstate 81 in Frackville, Pennsylvania. I started this journey with no destination in mind, but as I grow closer to the coast, I find that I'm being drawn to a specific location. I've been seeing flashes of a monastery in Pine City, New York, during my past few episodes. They're becoming more frequent as I get closer. This has happened to me before. I'm getting closer to someone like me. April 1st, 2017. 3:30 p.m. They knew I'd been coming for longer than I did. As I pulled into the main drive of the Mount Savior Monastery, an elderly monk led me to the West Casa, where a young woman dressed in a traditional habit knelt before a cross on the wall as she worked her way through a set of rosary beads. She rose from her position and greeted me, saying, "My name is Sister Mary Bernadette. I believe you have some questions for me." I nodded, and she continued, "I will answer as truthfully as I'm allowed." My first question lacked eloquence as I blurted out, "Why have I been seeing this?" She frowned and said, "The adversary torments the unworthy with visions and dreams. These are gifts meant only for the faithful. What you consider madness will be a blessing for those pure of spirit." I spoke up. "But if you know that so many people are going to die, why not stop it all?" She smiled and said, "They died when they rejected our Lord long ago. It's of no concern to us that they should find themselves in perdition." She placed her hand on mine and led me into the kitchen. As she prepared some tea, I sat at the table alone and asked, "Well, then why should I carry this burden? Why do I have to feel so damned alone all the time? What purpose does it serve that I should live like this? I was already in tears by the time I asked this, and she slid a cup of Earl Grey in front of me as she said, "Perhaps in another life you would have been prepared for such a gift. Instead, you've rejected the faith and thus damned yourself. You do not feel a separation from man, but from God. That hole you cannot fill isn't going to be found in the arms of a woman or the company of a new friend. You lost that part of yourself when you declared the Lord of Hosts to be your enemy. This knowledge is your curse." I sipped my tea and tried to compose myself. She was right. The feelings of dread and loneliness had begun when I left the church. The further I moved into a secular lifestyle, the more detached I felt from the world around me. Everything about what she was saying made sense. I think that's where it all clicked for me. You see, I have this thing I say. If everything starts making sense, run. The world isn't supposed to make sense. If the world is making sense, then either shit is about to go down, or you've completely lost control of your noodle, and it's time for the men in the white coats to cart you off to La La Land. Everything she said made sense, and that's when I knew she was up to something. My next question was not well received. I looked her in the eye and said, "But we can change it. I've seen it. Telling people about the future changes the future. God or not, we live in a physical universe, and by the very nature of observing the universe, we alter it. If enough people observing this were to act in unison, we could change it, right?" She slammed her glass down hard enough that I thought it would shatter and said, "What you speak of is heresy." I switched gears for a moment and asked, "How many people like us are there in the United States?" She cocked her head to the side and gave me a look I had made one too many times in the past when I was talking to someone and I couldn't really discern future events for them. This happens when someone truly is riding by the seat of their pants as they improvise in a situation. She gave me that look and smiled again as she said, "Including you, 13. I laughed and said, "I could feel you from more than 100 miles away. Is it the same with the others?" Her look of sly confusion turned to one of terror. She didn't need to be a psychic to know what was going to happen next. That's the thing. When you put someone like me in a room with someone else like me, the future gets all swimmy. It's harder to predict what's going to happen because you have two people simultaneously observing future events and then making decisions with different intents. It can be very hard to navigate that kind of situation. The thing is, I knew this already because I'd already met someone like her, like me. She tried to sprint from her chair, but I caught her in my arms and whispered into her ear, "I mean you no harm, but I cannot let this happen." As she tried to scream, I wrapped my arm around her neck and spun my waist to pull her neck over my shoulder. With a single fluid motion, I pulled forward as hard as I could, and her rigid body went limp as I lowered her to the floor. I was nearly 100 miles away before I stopped at a rest area to sleep. Call me crazy. Tell me I'm a monster. I don't care. I have a plan. For now, I'm going to drive for a while. April 2nd, 12:34 a.m. Okay, so this is going to sound crazy, I know, but for the first time in a decade, I have some hope. I've had it backward this whole time. I thought I was supposed to travel all these distances so I could meet friends and feel content. Nope. God, I was such an idiot. It's so clear now. The church has strayed from anything resembling a righteous path. They're harboring people like me. The best part is, I can feel them from almost 100 miles away. It might not be the most accurate radar in the world, but those idiot monks have a directory of all their US locations. I can work with that. I might not make any friends, and eventually they might try to stop me. But here's the thing. I have a plan. You see, the future is affected by those who observe it. Right now, that is a fairly extensive club that I'm hoping to purge of a few members in the near future. For now, and this is where it gets fun, I'm including a few entries from my journal. They probably wouldn't gain much traction on most available forums, but I know for a fact that it'll be read by millions if I post it here. Right now, 11 people in this region of the world are aware of their future and working to keep it on track. I'll take care of that. Don't worry. Your job, reader, is to let these words slip into your subconscious mind. It'll eventually influence your decisions. There's no way I could ever effect lasting change by myself, but our thoughts are influenced by the media we consume. The stories we read shape our attitudinal beliefs and societal norms. These, in turn, shape our values as we consider thoughts before they become action. This, in conjunction with an observation of the physical universe, makes every last one of you a node in my own personal psychic botnet. Go ahead, laugh, but I have a plan. If I can get enough people to read this, and I can take out the rest of the seers, we might have a bit of hope. If I'm crazy, I'm killing monks for no reason, and that would be bad. But I can't risk being wrong right now. There's not much time left. So I leave you with this. I give this plan a 20% chance of success. So try to avoid the East Coast for a while. Until then, I have some traveling to do. If you made it this far, I hope you'll follow me on Twitter at KingSpook Creepy.